My sister blocked the door at Christmas dinner. We don't have room for family like you anymore. And that's when I noticed everyone inside was wearing matching red sweaters with "The Real Fletchers" printed on them. The porcelain casserole dish I'd spent 3 hours preparing slipped from my hands. It shattered across the front porch steps, green bean almondine mixing with shards of my grandmother's servingware. Through the frosted glass panels of what used to be my parents' house, I could count them. 15 people. My sister Amanda's husband with his arm around my father. My brother Marcus raising a champagne flute. My mother adjusting Amanda's collar, smoothing down that hideous sweater like it was a wedding dress. They were all laughing. Not polite chuckles. The kind of laughter that comes from shared cruelty, from watching someone realize they've been erased. Amanda stepped onto the porch, careful to avoid the mess at my feet. She was 3 years younger but had always carried herself like she'd been born first, born better. "You can go now, Rebecca. We've already said grace." She held up her phone, showed me a group text I'd never been added to. The header read, "Fletcher Family Christmas, the real one." 47 messages, photos of them decorating the tree I'd bought last year, videos of them laughing about how I'd probably show up anyway, desperate and pathetic. I looked past her shoulder. The dining room table was set for exactly 15. My childhood chair had been replaced with a potted fern. But here's what Amanda didn't know, what none of them knew. I'd been handling my parents' financial affairs for 6 years. Every bill, every insurance policy, every investment account. They'd asked me to take it over when Dad's memory started slipping, when Mom got too overwhelmed with his doctor appointments. I had power of attorney. I had access to everything. And 3 months ago, when I'd noticed some irregular charges on their credit cards, charges that led back to Amanda's new interior design business, I'd started keeping very detailed records. I bent down and picked up the largest shard of the casserole dish. My grandmother had brought these from Poland in 1952. Amanda had always wanted them. "You know what?" I said, standing up slowly. "You're absolutely right. I don't belong here anymore." I placed the porcelain shard on the porch railing, right where she'd see it every time she came outside. "Merry Christmas, Amanda. I hope you enjoyed dinner." Her face flickered with confusion. She'd expected tears. She'd planned for screaming, for me to beg my way inside to give her another scene to screenshot and share. Instead, I walked back to my car with my spine straight and my head high. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw them pressed against the window, watching, waiting for the breakdown that wasn't coming. The thing about being the family's invisible workhorse is that you learn things. You see things. You're there for the hospital visits no one else wants to attend, the bill payments no one else understands, the late-night calls when panic sets in about money or health or the future. You become the repository of every secret, every weakness, every piece of leverage that a family generates over decades of messy living. Amanda thought she'd won because she'd convinced everyone I was the problem, the unmarried one, the one still renting, the one who couldn't seem to get her life together while Amanda had the house, the husband, the 2 kids in private school. What she didn't know was that I'd been quietly holding this family together with paperwork and patience, while she'd been taking credit for every success and blaming me for every failure. The drive home took 20 minutes. I spent 19 of them completely calm, running through the inventory in my mind, the documents in my home office, the recorded phone calls I'd legally saved, the emails I'd forwarded to my personal account, the conversations I'd had with my parents' estate attorney just last week, casual questions about what happens when someone with power of attorney discovers financial elder abuse. It wasn't until I parked in my apartment complex that my hands started shaking. Not from sadness, from rage so pure it felt like poison in my bloodstream. I'd spent my entire adult life being the good daughter, the one who showed up, the one who helped, the one who asked for nothing in return except basic human decency, basic inclusion, basic respect. And they'd literally replaced me with a potted fern. Inside my apartment, I opened my laptop. The folder was labeled Estate Planning, Fletcher. Inside were 63 files. Bank statements showing the $23,000 Amanda had borrowed from our parents' savings. Credit card bills for her business supplies that were actually furniture for her house. Forged signatures on loan applications. Text messages I'd screenshotted where she'd coached our mother on what to say to the bank. I'd been collecting this for months, telling myself I was just being thorough. just being prepared in case I needed to protect them from Amanda's carelessness. But tonight, looking at those matching sweaters, seeing my chair replaced with a plant, I understood something fundamental about myself. I was done protecting anyone but me. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Next time, wait for an actual invitation, LOL. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder. Then I opened a new document and started typing. Timeline of financial exploitation, Fletcher family estate. I worked for 3 hours, cross-referencing dates, amounts, conversations. By midnight, I had a 17-page report that would make any prosecutor's eyes light up. But prosecution wasn't what I wanted. Prison was too clean, too quick, too public in a way that would make Amanda into a victim of the system rather than a victim of her own greed. No, what I wanted was much simpler. I wanted Amanda to lose everything the exact same way she'd tried to make me lose everything. Slowly. Personally. With her whole family watching. The next morning, Christmas Day, I sent 3 emails before the sun came up. The first went to my parents' estate attorney with all documentation attached. Subject line, urgent, suspected, elder financial abuse. The second went to the bank that held my parents' mortgage, the one Amanda had refinanced 6 months ago without my knowledge, using her power of attorney that she'd somehow convinced them to sign. Subject line, fraudulent loan application, supporting evidence attached. The third went to myself, a reminder to check my parents' mailbox in 3 days when they'd be back from Amanda's house, before anyone else could intercept the letters that would be arriving from lawyers and banks and very serious people with very serious questions. I didn't send anything to my family, didn't call, didn't text, didn't explain. Let them have their perfect Christmas with their matching sweaters and their self-righteousness. Let Amanda feel like she'd finally won. Because the thing about paper trails is that they're permanent. And the thing about financial crimes against the elderly is that once the wheels start turning, they don't stop. Not for tears, not for apologies, not for claims of misunderstanding. And the beautiful thing about power of attorney is that it can be revoked in an instant by the person who granted it. All I needed was one conversation with my father when Amanda wasn't around. One conversation where I showed him exactly what his favorite daughter had been doing with his money. I spent Christmas Day organizing files and making phone calls to people who work even on holidays, people whose job it is to investigate exactly this kind of thing. By the evening, I had 3 different agencies interested in Amanda's activities. By the next morning, I had a lawyer of my own, one who specialized in estate protection and family fraud. This is a strong case, he told me over the phone. But I have to ask, are you sure you want to do this? Once we start, there's no taking it back. This will destroy your sister financially, possibly criminally. I thought about that casserole dish, about my grandmother's chair replaced with a fern, about 15 people laughing at me through frosted glass. I'm sure, I said. Start the paperwork. What Amanda didn't understand, what none of them understood, is that I hadn't been weak all these years. I'd been patient, I'd been careful, I'd been documenting, and now it was time to show them exactly what kind of woman they'd decided to erase. The day after Christmas, I drove to my parents' house at 10 a.m. Amanda's minivan wasn't in the driveway. She'd be at the post-holiday sales, dragging Mom along to spend more money they didn't have on things they didn't need. Dad answered on the third knock, wearing the same pajamas he'd had on for probably 3 days. His eyes were cloudy, unfocused. The house smelled like burnt coffee and something rotten in the kitchen. Rebecca? He blinked at me like I was a stranger. What are you doing here? I came to talk to you about your bank accounts, Dad. I watched recognition flicker and die in his face. This was the part Amanda had been counting on. That Dad's confusion would make him the perfect mark, that no one would question his signature on documents he didn't remember signing. Amanda handles all that now, he said automatically, already starting to close the door. She's much better with numbers. I put my hand on the door, gentle but firm. Dad, I need you to look at something, just for 5 minutes. Then I'll leave if you want me to. He hesitated. Somewhere under the medication fog and the creeping dementia, there was still the man who'd taught me to balance a checkbook when I was 12, who'd made me promise to always read the fine print. 5 minutes, he agreed. I spread the documents across the kitchen table: bank statements, credit card bills, the refinance paperwork that had tripled their mortgage payment. Amanda had been so confident in her scheme that she'd barely tried to hide it. She'd used her real name, her real business, her real address for all the deliveries and transfers. Dad, look at this charge: $2,200 to Premier Home Furnishings. Do you remember buying new furniture? He stared at the paper. No. Look at the delivery address. That's Amanda's house. His finger traced the line. I watched his face change as the fog cleared, just for a moment, just long enough. And here, $15,000 transfer to Fletcher Designs LLC. That's Amanda's company. Did you authorize that? She said it was a loan for her business. His voice was small, uncertain. Did you sign anything? I don't remember signing anything. I pulled out the loan application. His signature was there, bold and clear, nothing like the shaky scrawl he'd been using for the past year. I'd brought one of his recent prescriptions for comparison. Even he could see the difference. That's not my signature, he whispered. That's not. Rebecca, that's not my handwriting. I know, Dad. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw him completely present, completely aware, completely terrified. How much? She's taken $68,000 in the last 18 months. The refinance put you $200,000 deeper in debt. You'll lose the house in 6 months at the current payment rate, maybe sooner. The color drained from his face. Your mother doesn't know. Mom signed some of the papers. I think Amanda told her they were insurance forms. He put his head in his hands. When he looked up again, there were tears on his cheeks. I gave her power of attorney. She said you were too busy, that you didn't want to be bothered anymore. I never said that. I know. He reached across the table and gripped my hand. His fingers were cold, trembling. I know that now. What do I do? I pulled out the form I'd had my attorney prepare. You revoke her power of attorney, you give it back to me, and you let me fix this. Can you fix this? I can try. He signed the paper with his shaky hand, and I had to look away because seeing him so broken, so betrayed by his favorite child, hurt more than the matching sweaters ever could. Rebecca, he said as I gathered the papers, she's going to be so angry. Let her be angry. She'll say terrible things about you. She'll turn your mother against you even more. Dad, they already turned Mom against me. They already said terrible things. They literally locked me out of Christmas dinner. I met his eyes. I have nothing left to lose, but Amanda does. Amanda has everything to lose. I left him sitting at that table, staring at decades of family photos on the wall, probably wondering when his daughter had turned into a thief. The revocation of power of attorney was filed by 2 p.m. By 3 p.m., Amanda's access to their bank accounts was frozen. By 4 p.m., she'd tried to use their credit card at Nordstrom and been declined. My phone started ringing at 4:07 p.m. Amanda. I let it go to voicemail. She called 6 more times. Then Marcus called. Then my mother. I ignored them all. The voicemails started coming in. Amanda's voice, shrill and panicked. What did you do? What did you do? You're trying to ruin Christmas. You're poisoning Dad against me. Marcus, trying to sound authoritative. This is insane, Rebecca. You need to stop whatever scheme you're pulling and give Amanda back access to the accounts. My mother, confused and frightened. Rebecca, honey, Amanda says you stole money from Daddy. That can't be true, can it? Please call me back. I saved every voicemail. Evidence of their immediate assumption that I was the criminal, not Amanda. Evidence that even faced with frozen accounts and fraud alerts, their first instinct was to attack me. At 6 p.m., Amanda showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as she pounded on the door, mascara running down her face, still wearing her shopping clothes. Open this door right now. You have no right. Those are my parents, too. I've been taking care of them while you've been off living your selfish little life. I recorded the audio on my phone. Let her scream. Let the neighbors hear. Let her destroy her own credibility with every shrieked word. I know you're in there. You always were jealous of me. This is just like you, trying to ruin everything because you can't stand that Mom and Dad love me more. After 20 minutes, she finally left. I found a note shoved under my door. "You'll regret this. I have lawyers. I have proof that you're the one stealing from them. You're going to jail." I took a photo of the note, added it to the folder. That night, I got an email from the estate attorney. Subject line: Fletcher investigation. Timeline. The bank had opened a formal fraud investigation. The mortgage company was reviewing the refinance application, and the district attorney's office had been notified about potential elder financial abuse, all within 16 hours of my Christmas morning emails. "These things usually take weeks," the attorney wrote. "But given the amount of money involved and the clarity of the documentation you provided, they're fast-tracking this. You should expect the investigators to contact you within 72 hours. And Rebecca, they're going to want to talk to Amanda too." I closed my laptop and poured myself a glass of wine. The first alcohol I'd had since Christmas Eve. Outside my window, the city lights blinked in the December cold. Somewhere out there, Amanda was probably calling more lawyers, spinning more lies, trying to figure out how to blame this on me. Let her try. I had the paper trail. I had the timeline. I had my father's shaky signature on that revocation form, proof that when given the truth, he'd chosen me. And most importantly, I had patience. Because the thing about revenge isn't the explosive moment. It's not the dramatic confrontation. It's watching someone realize, slowly, that every door is closing. Every escape route is blocked. Every person they thought they could manipulate is suddenly asking very uncomfortable questions. Amanda thought she'd won when she locked me out of Christmas. She had no idea that the real game was just beginning. The investigators came to my apartment on December 28th, 2 of them. Detectives Sarah Ortega and a financial crimes specialist named Hoffman, who looked like he'd been doing this job for 30 years. They sat on my couch and went through every document I'd compiled, asking questions that were sharp and specific. "How long have you had power of attorney?" Ortega asked. 6 years. Since my father's diagnosis with early onset Alzheimer's. "And your sister obtained her own power of attorney when?" 7 months ago. She told my parents I was overwhelmed, that I'd asked her to take over. That was a lie. Hoffman looked up from the bank statements. "Did you ever discuss finances with your sister? Did she know you were monitoring the accounts?" "She knew I had access. She didn't know I was keeping records of every irregular transaction." "Why did you wait so long to report this?" This was the question I'd been expecting, the one that could make me look complicit or vindictive, because I didn't want to believe my sister was stealing from our parents. I kept thinking there were explanations, that maybe Dad had approved these things and forgotten, that maybe the charges were legitimate. I paused. And then she locked me out of Christmas dinner, and I realized she'd been systematically pushing me out of the family so no one would question her access to their money. Ortega nodded. "The matching sweaters. Your father mentioned that. You talked to my dad?" "Yesterday. He was very clear about wanting to press charges." Hoffman closed his folder. "Ms. Fletcher, I'm going to be direct with you. This is one of the most well-documented cases of elder financial abuse I've seen. Your sister isn't just looking at civil liability. She's looking at multiple felony counts." Something flickered in my chest. Not guilt, not satisfaction, something sharper. "What happens now?" "We interview your sister. We seize her financial records. We trace every dollar. And if the evidence holds up, and I have no doubt it will, we present it to the DA for prosecution." They left an hour later, taking copies of everything. Ortega paused at the door. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I have a sister too. I know what it's like when family betrays you. You did the right thing." After they left, I sat in the silence of my apartment and waited for my phone to ring. Amanda would know about the investigation within hours. The bank would notify her, the mortgage company would contact her, and she would spiral. The call came at 2 p.m. Not Amanda. "Marcus. You need to drop this." His voice was tight, controlled. "Whatever you think Amanda did, you're wrong. You're destroying this family over a misunderstanding." "Marcus, she forged Dad's signature. She stole $68,000. That's not a misunderstanding." "Dad's confused. He doesn't remember what he signed. You're taking advantage of his condition to frame Amanda." I have bank records, credit card statements. Investigators have already confirmed. Investigators? His voice went up an octave. You brought police into our family business? Are you insane? Amanda committed fraud. That's not family business. That's criminal business. She was helping them. She was managing their money because you were too selfish to do it yourself. I let the silence stretch. Let him hear how ridiculous he sounded. Marcus, she bought $22,000 worth of furniture for her own house using their credit cards. She refinanced their mortgage and pocketed the cash. She forged signatures. Those are facts. You're just jealous because mom and dad love her more than you. And there it was, the real reason. Not because he believed Amanda was innocent, but because in their hierarchy of family value, I'd always been at the bottom. Believe what you want, I said. But when the charges are filed, you might want to ask yourself if you want to be associated with someone who steals from elderly parents with dementia. I hung up before he could respond. That evening, Amanda posted on Facebook a long, rambling message about false accusations and jealous siblings and how she'd devoted her life to caring for our parents while I'd abandoned them. She tagged every family member, every mutual friend, everyone who'd been at that Christmas dinner. The comments rolled in, supportive emojis, angry reactions, people who'd known me my whole life calling me a vindictive liar. I screenshot the entire post. The part where she said, "I've never taken a penny from my parents without permission," would look particularly interesting to the investigators. My mother called at 9 p.m. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Rebecca. Her voice was thick with tears. How could you do this to your sister? Mom, Amanda stole from you. She stole from Dad. I have proof. She explained everything. Those were loans. She's paying them back. There's no record of any repayment, not a single dollar. She's been busy. She has a business to run, children to raise. You don't understand what it's like to have responsibilities. I closed my eyes. I understand that she committed fraud. You're tearing this family apart. Your father is so confused. He doesn't know what's true anymore. Amanda is devastated. And for what? Because you're angry about a stupid Christmas dinner? It stopped being about Christmas when I found $68,000 missing from your accounts. That money was a family investment. Amanda was going to— Mom, she forged Dad's signature. That's a felony. Silence. Then, I don't know you anymore. I don't know who you've become. I've become someone who won't watch you lose your house because Amanda wanted new furniture. She hung up. I sat in the dark and felt something inside me crystallize. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about every time I'd been overlooked, dismissed, erased. Every time Amanda had taken credit for my work. Every time Marcus had gotten the benefit of the doubt while I'd been held to impossible standards. Every time my mother had chosen Amanda's lies over my truth. They wanted to make me the villain? Fine. I'd be the villain who burned down their house of cards. The next morning, I filed a civil lawsuit. Not just against Amanda and her husband jointly. Community property laws meant his assets were on the line too. The house they'd bought 2 years ago with the down payment that had mysteriously appeared right after Dad's savings account got drained, the cars, the kids' private school fund, all of it was built on stolen money. All of it was fair game. My attorney called it aggressive. I called it appropriate. Your sister is going to lose everything, he warned. Her house, her credit, possibly her marriage. Are you prepared for the fallout? I thought about those matching sweaters, about my chair replaced with a fern. Yes, I said. I'm prepared. The lawsuit was served on December 30th. Amanda's husband, Grant, called me within an hour. He'd never called me before in the 8 years they'd been married. This is insane. He was trying to sound reasonable, but I could hear the panic underneath. We have kids, Rebecca. You're going to make your niece and nephew homeless over this? Amanda made her kids vulnerable when she decided to steal from elderly people with dementia. She didn't steal, she borrowed. There's a difference. Then show me the loan agreements. Show me the repayment schedule. Show me any evidence that this was legitimate. Silence. You can't, I continued, because there isn't any. Because Amanda lied to you too. She told you that money was from her successful business, or didn't she? His breathing changed. How did you? Because that's what Amanda does. She lies. She manipulates. She takes what she wants and convinces everyone around her that she deserves it. I paused. The difference between you and me is that I'm not falling for it anymore. If you do this, the whole family will hate you. Forever. They already hate me, Grant. At least now I'll have a reason. New Year's Eve I spent alone, by choice. I ordered takeout and watched the ball drop on TV and thought about how a year ago, I'd been at my parents' house cooking dinner for 15 people who couldn't even be bothered to say thank you. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. But you won't win. I'll make sure everyone knows what a monster you are. Amanda. Using a friend's phone because I'd blocked her number, I saved the text and poured myself champagne. In that moment, alone in my apartment with the sound of fireworks outside and the wreckage of my family behind me, I'd never felt more powerful, because I was winning. Not in the way they understood winning, not through popularity or manipulation or playing the victim. I was winning through documentation, through patience, through being smarter than everyone who'd underestimated me. And the best part? I was just getting started. The subpoenas went out during the first week of January. Amanda's bank records, her business accounts, credit card statements going back 3 years, the mortgage company's files on the refinance, every email between Amanda and my parents' bank. I wasn't supposed to know about this. But Hoffman had taken a liking to me, and he sometimes called with updates that walked right up to the line of what he was allowed to share. Your sister hired a lawyer, he told me on January 8th. A good one, actually. He's claiming this is a family dispute that's been criminalized by a vindictive sister. Can he make that argument stick? Not with your documentation, but he's going to try. A pause. Rebecca, you should know. They're planning to attack your character, make you seem unstable, jealous, unreliable. Let them try. They already are. Your sister's been talking to everyone who'll listen. She's building a narrative that you've always been jealous of her, that you manipulated your father while he was confused, that you're only doing this because you want their money for yourself. I thought about this. Somewhere in my chest, there was still a small part that could be hurt by this. A small part that wanted my family to see the truth, to apologize, to choose me. I let that part die. Starved it of hope and fed it rage instead. Hoffman, I said, how strong is the case? Airtight. We have forged signatures, unauthorized transactions, a clear pattern of deception. The DA's office is moving forward with charges regardless of the family narrative. When? Arraignment is scheduled for January 24th. 3 counts of financial elder abuse, 2 counts of forgery, 1 count of fraud. If convicted on all counts, she's looking at 6 to 10 years. 6 to 10 years. Amanda in prison, away from her kids, her house, her perfect life. I felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just cold calculation. What about the civil case? That's moving forward too. Given the strength of the criminal evidence, I'd say you have a 90% chance of winning full restitution plus damages. How much? With interest and legal fees, you're looking at somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000. Amanda didn't have $300,000. Even with the house and the cars and Grant's salary, they'd be bankrupted. Good, I said. The preliminary hearing was on January 17th. I sat in the back of the courtroom and watched Amanda walk in with her lawyer, wearing a conservative navy dress and pearls like she was going to church. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She saw me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She mouthed something. I couldn't tell if it was please or I hate you. I looked away. The prosecutor laid out the case in brutal detail. Every forged signature, every unauthorized charge, every lie Amanda had told. The defense attorney tried to paint it as a misunderstanding, as Amanda trying to help her parents and getting confused about permissions. The judge wasn't buying it. Ms. Fletcher, she said, looking directly at Amanda, you transferred $68,000 from your parents' accounts to your personal accounts and business accounts. You refinanced their home without proper authorization. You forged your father's signature on multiple documents. This court finds sufficient evidence to proceed to trial." Amanda started crying. Not delicate tears, ugly, gasping sobs that echoed through the courtroom. I watched her fall apart and felt absolutely nothing. Outside the courthouse, Marcus was waiting. He grabbed my arm as I walked past. "Are you happy now? You've ruined her life. You've ruined all our lives." I pulled my arm free. Amanda ruined her own life when she decided to be a thief. She made mistakes. She was trying to help. She bought furniture for her own house, Marcus. She took vacations. She paid for her kids' private school. That's not helping. That's stealing. You're doing this because you're bitter and alone and you can't stand that Amanda has a real life. I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the fear in his eyes, the understanding that I was done being the family punching bag. "No, Marcus. I'm doing this because I'm finally standing up for myself. And that terrifies all of you because you've spent decades relying on me to just take it, to be the doormat, to accept whatever scraps you decided to throw my way." I smiled. "But I'm done accepting scraps. Now I'm taking everything." I walked away and didn't look back. That night, my mother left a voicemail. "Rebecca, please. Amanda's children are asking why mommy is crying all the time. They don't understand what's happening. You're hurting innocent children. Please, for the sake of your niece and nephew, drop the charges." I deleted it without saving. Grant called next. "I'll pay back the money, all of it. Just drop the criminal charges. Please, Amanda can't go to prison. Our kids need their mother." Amanda should have thought about that before she committed multiple felonies. "Rebecca, I'm begging you." "Begging won't work. It didn't work for me on Christmas Eve, and it won't work for you now." I hung up. The trial date was set for March 15th, 2.5 months away. 2.5 months of my family scrambling, panicking, realizing that their golden child was going to prison, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. My father called on January 20th. It was the first time he'd reached out since I'd shown him the documents. "Rebecca." His voice was stronger, clearer. "I need to tell you something." "What, Dad?" I remember now. I remember Amanda bringing papers for me to sign. She told me they were insurance updates. She told me you'd already reviewed them. She stood over me while I signed, rushed me, said we were running late for a doctor's appointment. He took a shaky breath. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew I was confused, and she used that against me. I closed my eyes, felt something crack in my chest. "Dad, don't let your mother bully you into dropping this. Don't let Marcus guilt you. Don't let Amanda's tears sway you." His voice was fierce now, almost angry. "You're the only one who fought for us. You're the only one who cared enough to stop her. And I'm proud of you." I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, and for the first time since Christmas Eve, I cried. Not sad tears, relief, validation, the knowledge that at least one person in my family saw the truth. "Thank you," I whispered. "No. Thank you for being stronger than the rest of us." After we hung up, I poured myself a drink and thought about what came next. The trial, the inevitable conviction, the sentencing. Amanda was going to lose everything: her freedom, her reputation, her children's respect, her husband's trust, and I was going to watch it all burn down, with my father's words echoing in my head. "I'm proud of you." The trial started on March 15th, exactly as scheduled. The prosecution built their case like architects constructing a building. Foundation first, then walls, then roof. By day 3, the structure was so solid that even Amanda's defense attorney looked defeated. I was called to testify on day 4. Amanda's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, jealous, motivated by spite rather than justice. "Isn't it true, Ms. Fletcher, that you were angry about being excluded from a family Christmas dinner?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that you filed these charges immediately after that exclusion?" "I filed charges after discovering that my sister had stolen nearly $70,000 from our parents." "But the timing was suspicious, wasn't it? Right after a family argument?" I looked directly at the jury. "The timing was necessary. My sister had been systematically pushing me away from my parents so I couldn't monitor her theft. When she finally locked me out completely, I realized she was preparing to take even more. I had to act fast to protect what was left of their assets. You claim you were protecting your parents, but isn't it true that you've always resented your sister's success? My sister's success was built on money stolen from vulnerable elderly people with dementia. That's not success. That's theft. The lawyer tried several more angles. Each one failed. Because the truth was simple, and I had documented every piece of it. When the prosecution cross-examined, they had me walk through the timeline, every transaction, every forged signature, every lie Amanda had told. I had screenshots, bank statements, recordings of conversations, 3 years of meticulous documentation. By the time I stepped down from the witness stand, 2 of the jurors were looking at Amanda with open disgust. My father testified on day 5. He was having a good day, clear, focused, angry. He described how Amanda had rushed him through signing papers, how she'd told him I was too busy to help anymore, how she'd isolated him from me while systematically draining his accounts. Did you authorize any of these transfers? The prosecutor asked. No. Did you authorize the refinance of your home? No. Did you know your daughter was using your credit cards to furnish her own house? Not until Rebecca showed me the statements, I thought. His voice cracked. I thought Amanda loved me. I thought she was helping us. Amanda was crying. Her lawyer kept passing her tissues. The jury kept watching her with harder and harder eyes. My mother didn't testify. She'd been on Amanda's witness list, prepared to say that I'd manipulated the situation, that Dad's memory was too unreliable to trust. But 2 days before she was scheduled to appear, she'd called my father's lawyer and withdrawn. I can't lie under oath, she'd told him. I can't say Rebecca is wrong when I've seen the bank statements now. I can't pretend Amanda didn't do this. It was the first crack in Amanda's support system. More would follow. The defense's case lasted a day and a half. They tried to argue diminished capacity, that Amanda had been overwhelmed with caring for our parents, that she'd gotten confused about permissions, that she'd intended to pay everything back. But they couldn't explain the forged signatures. They couldn't explain why Amanda had bought furniture for her own house. They couldn't explain why she'd lied to the bank about our father's income to get the refinance approved. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Amanda collapsed. Grant caught her before she hit the floor. Her lawyer was already talking about appeals, but I could see in his face that he knew it was over. Sentencing was scheduled for April 10th. I left the courthouse and drove straight to my parents' house. Dad was waiting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket even though it was 65 degrees outside. It's done, I said. He nodded slowly. Your mother's inside. She wants to talk to you. I found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table where I'd first shown Dad the evidence. She looked older. The past 4 months had aged her a decade. Rebecca. She didn't look up. I owe you an apology. I sat down across from her, waited. I should have believed you. I should have looked at the evidence instead of just defending Amanda because She finally met my eyes. Because she's always been easier to love. The honesty of it shocked me. You were always so independent, she continued, so self-sufficient. You never needed us the way Amanda did. So I guess I thought you didn't want us as much as she did. I wanted you, I said quietly. I just didn't beg for it. She started crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind Amanda used. I know that now. And I'm so sorry. For Christmas. For believing her lies. For making you feel like you weren't part of this family. I looked at my mother crying and felt the vindication I'd been chasing, but it tasted like ash. I'm glad you see the truth now, I said, but it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change that you chose her over me, over and over, until I had to burn everything down just to be heard. I know. She reached across the table. I didn't take her hand. Can you forgive me? Eventually, maybe, but not today. She nodded, understanding finally that some things can't be fixed with apologies. Sentencing day came. The courtroom was packed. Family, friends, neighbors, people who'd read about the case in the local news. Financial elder abuse had become a hot topic. Amanda had become an example. The judge was a woman in her 60s who'd read every page of the case file. She looked at Amanda with the kind of cold fury that comes from seeing someone exploit the exact vulnerability she feared for her own parents. "Ms. Fletcher," she said, "you systematically stole from your own parents while they were at their most vulnerable. You forged documents. You lied to financial institutions. You manipulated your father's medical condition for personal gain. This court views such actions as particularly heinous." Amanda was sobbing. Grant had his arm around her. Their kids weren't there. Grant's mother had them. "The prosecution has recommended 8 years. The defense has requested probation and community service. This court finds both suggestions insufficient." I sat up straighter. "You are hereby sentenced to 10 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 7. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $68,542 to your parents, plus an additional $100,000 in damages and legal fees. You will be permanently barred from any form of power of attorney or estate management. You will have no access to your parents' finances for the remainder of their lives." 10 years, Amanda screamed. Actually screamed. Guards had to physically restrain her as she tried to rush toward me, shouting that I'd ruined her life, that I was a monster, that I'd pay for this. I sat perfectly still and watched her be dragged from the courtroom. Marcus left without looking at me. My mother sat frozen in her seat. My father reached over and squeezed my hand. "Thank you," he whispered. Outside, reporters were waiting. I gave a brief statement about elder financial abuse and the importance of protecting vulnerable populations. I didn't mention Amanda by name. I didn't have to. Her case would be used in training materials for years to come. Grant approached me as I was getting in my car. He looked hollowed out. "The kids are asking about their mother. What do I tell them?" "Tell them the truth, that she broke the law and has to face consequences. They're 8 and 10 years old, Rebecca. They don't understand. Then they'll learn an important lesson early. Actions have consequences. No matter how much you're loved, no matter how many excuses people make for you, eventually the truth comes out." "You got what you wanted," he said bitterly. "You destroyed her." I looked at him directly. "No, Amanda destroyed herself. I just made sure everyone could see it." I drove home and poured myself expensive whiskey. The civil case had settled 2 weeks earlier. Amanda and Grant had agreed to pay $350,000 rather than go through another trial. They'd had to sell their house, their cars, empty their kids' college funds. They were moving into a rental apartment in the bad part of town. Everything Amanda had built on stolen money was gone, and I had saved my parents from losing their home, their security, their dignity. I sat in my apartment and felt the weight of the past 4 months lift off my shoulders. The rage that had sustained me was gone, replaced by something colder and cleaner. Victory. Not the hollow kind where everyone loses, but the pure, mathematical kind where the person who committed the crime faces the punishment, where the innocent are protected, where justice actually functions the way it's supposed to. Amanda would spend the next 7 to 10 years in prison. Her kids would grow up without her. Her husband would probably divorce her. Her reputation was destroyed forever. And I had done that. I had taken the golden child, the favorite, the one who'd always gotten away with everything, and I had crushed her so thoroughly that she would never recover. I raised my glass to the city lights outside my window. "Merry Christmas, Amanda," I said to the empty room. 3 years later, I stood in the kitchen of my parents' house, cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 8 people. Dad was having a good day, telling stories from his Navy years that I'd heard 100 times but never got tired of. Mom was setting the table with the good china, the set Amanda had tried to sell online before I'd caught her. My younger cousin Emma was helping me with the potatoes. She'd driven 3 hours to be here, said she'd been waiting years to spend a holiday with us now that the toxic element was gone. "I never understood why everyone worshipped Amanda," she said, keeping her voice low. "She was always so fake, so manipulative." "People see what they want to see," I said. "You must feel vindicated. After everything." I thought about this. Vindicated wasn't quite the right word. "I feel settled," I said finally. "Like things are in their proper place." Through the window, I could see Marcus's car pulling up. He'd been invited. Dad had insisted, and I'd agreed. We were cordial now, distant but polite. He'd apologized 6 months after Amanda's sentencing, A stilted conversation where he'd admitted he'd failed to see the situation clearly. I'd accepted the apology without forgetting what he'd said during those awful months. Some bridges you rebuild, some you let stay burned. Marcus came in with his new girlfriend, a quiet woman who worked as a teacher. She seemed nice, normal, the kind of person who would have called the police immediately if she'd discovered what Amanda had done, instead of making excuses. We ate dinner, we talked about safe things, jobs, weather, a new restaurant downtown. No one mentioned Amanda. She was the ghost at this table, the absence that made the presence of everyone else easier to bear. After dessert, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "I got a letter from her," she said quietly. "From prison. She wants us to visit." "Are you going to?" She looked at me, really looked at me. "Do you want me to?" It was a test, I realized, asking for my permission, trying to prove that I came first now. "That's your decision, Mom. She's your daughter. So are you. And you're the one who's here. Who shows up? Who?" She touched my cheek. "Who saved us?" I didn't ask what the letter said. Didn't ask if Amanda had apologized or was still playing the victim. It didn't matter anymore. "If you want to visit her, I understand. But I won't be going." "I know." She hugged me tight. "I haven't written back yet. I don't know if I will." Later, after everyone had left and I was helping Dad to bed, he grabbed my hand. "You know what I'm most proud of?" he said. "What?" "That you didn't let them make you smaller. You could have. You could have just accepted it, stayed quiet, kept being invisible." His eyes were clear, focused. "But you didn't. You burned it all down and built it back the way it should be. Some people think I went too far. Some people enable theft. They're not worth listening to." He squeezed my hand. "You did exactly what needed to be done. No more, no less." I drove home that night thinking about Amanda. Somewhere in a prison 3 hours north, she was probably lying in a cell, thinking about the Thanksgiving dinner she was missing, the life she'd lost, the family who'd moved on without her. I wondered if she'd learned anything, if prison had given her perspective, helped her understand the magnitude of what she'd done. Probably not. People like Amanda rarely gain self-awareness. They just get better at playing the victim, at crafting narratives where they're the ones who were wronged. My apartment was quiet. I poured myself wine and opened my laptop. The GoFundMe I'd set up for elder financial abuse awareness had raised $47,000. I'd been using it to fund legal aid for families going through similar situations, people who had documentation but couldn't afford the lawyers to fight back. 3 families had already won their cases. 2 more were in progress. Amanda had become a cautionary tale. Her case was cited in legal briefs, used in training materials for social workers and bank employees. She'd wanted to be remembered, to be important. She got her wish, just not the way she'd planned. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, standing on that porch with casserole dish shards at my feet, looking through frosted glass at a family that had erased me. That woman had been hurt, devastated, broken, but not defeated. She'd gone home and plotted. She'd documented. She'd waited for the perfect moment and then struck with surgical precision. And now she was free, truly free, not just from Amanda's theft, but from the weight of being undervalued, overlooked, taken for granted. I'd learned something important through this whole nightmare. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. Being patient doesn't mean being a doormat. And loving your family doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself, for the people who genuinely love you, for justice itself, is to refuse to be small. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something better. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Thank you for today. Thank you for everything. I love you." I typed back, "I love you too." Then I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Outside my window, the city hummed with life. Somewhere out there, people were being hurt by the people they trusted. Somewhere, someone was choosing silence over justice because making waves seemed too hard. But not me. Not anymore. I'd chosen the hard path. The one that cost me relationships and sleep and the comfortable lie that family loyalty meant accepting abuse. And I'd won. Amanda would be released in 4 more years if she got parole, 7 if she didn't. She'd come out to a world that had moved on without her. Her kids would be teenagers who barely remembered her. Grant would have remarried. He'd already filed for divorce. Her business would be long dead. She'd have nothing. No money, no reputation, no family waiting to welcome her back. She'd be exactly where she'd tried to put me, alone, powerless, erased. Except I'd survived that position and built something better. I wasn't sure she'd be able to do the same. And honestly, I didn't care. Some people get what they deserve. Some people face consequences. Some people learn that the quiet one, the invisible one, the one they thought they could lock out and forget, was actually the most dangerous person in the room. Amanda had learned that lesson the hard way. I fell asleep smiling, thinking about matching sweaters and potted ferns, and the exact moment I'd decided to stop being their victim and become their reckoning. Best decision I ever made.